So, when I walked through the downstairs of the Museum of Early Trades and Crafts, I was drawn into a large exhibit in the left hand corner of the room. We were studying various objects at the time through the Drew Writing Project, and this one actually evoked some questions in my mind because I have a real connection to historical literacy and communication. And I've really been researching how people have told their stories, and this object drew me in for that personal connection. So when I first saw the printing press, I was drawn in by its large stature. It looked really heavy. I started wondering how they were able to get the newspaper printed on the object. Also, there was a large pole that was protruding from the side, and I wondered what that was. It was surrounded by large letter blocks, and I was curious how they could actually take those blocks and turn them into the paper. Who were the people that worked there? How much money they have to A, spend on the printing press? So who had access to printing itself? Who were actually the people that worked on the printing press? How many printing presses did it take to actually put out a newspaper? So was this like one or several? Um, who were the people telling their stories at the time? But also who was reading the newspapers? So, just by looking at this object, a lot of the historical literacy components started running through, my mind, and it allowed me to create questions to kind of find out and research a little bit more. As I continued to look around the exhibit, I found a booklet that allowed me to answer some of the questions that I had. And I was able to corroborate and examine this information closely to identify its context and when it was created. So I found out that the printing press was originally made of wood. It was invented by Samuel Rust in 1821, and that it improved the existing iron press of his day. And he patented the frame and the design to be stronger and lighter. And even though the original printing press was made out of wood, um, this was the first time it was constructed out of iron. There was a limited amount of type that they could print, and the setting type were the blocks that surrounded the exhibit, and the typesetter or printer was recognizable because of their large muscles that they developed just on the right side of their body from pulling that large object that was protruding out, known as the devil's tail. This also made me a little bit curious about, you know, what was the devil's tail? Why did they name it that way? So it evoked kind of like writing prompts in my mind as well. So this typesetter was a person. And also, what was interesting is within the booklet itself, there was a ad that was looking for a missing apprentice because apprentices worked with the printers, and they worked on a contract and they didn't get paid. So sometimes they would escape because the work was too hard or they didn't want to be a part of it anymore. But it was costing the printers a lot of money. So within the booklet, it told about that runaway apprentice as well. And throughout this time, I started to think about the different ways that I could research this object. And it really tied to that communication question I had for today, which was how communication has changed over time. But surprisingly, it has stayed the same. So today, our version of the printing press is simply our iPhones, and that our version of the typesetter is ourselves, through applications of social media. And now with apps like Twitter, there are limited characters, but anyone can post their story. So this is the story of the printing press from my eyes through visiting the Early Trades Museum in Morristown, in Madison.